if I'm too self-critical, I just produce nothing. And if I'm not self-critical enough, I just produce shit. I wish I hadn't been as shy and as scared of almost everything. Now you have got to be able to do a bit of everything. Just thinking, well, I don't know how to do that, but I'll just go and look it up. You've got to try and hold on to your joy in some ways. I'm almost envious of every single project I see come out. This whole thing, put your nose to the grindstone and it's blood, sweat and tears. I think we're so fortunate to be doing what we're doing. I think you work hard, but it's not hard work.
Jim, you've been here 5 minutes. I've just picked you up from the station. What kind of vibe, what kind of feeling do you get from the city just from the few minutes you've been here already?
It's really interesting actually, because I have been here a couple of times before.
Okay.
But the last time I came, it was pouring with rain, a really grey sort of day.
Right.
And I was here with my family.
It's like that a lot.
And we did go down to that, what do you call it? The
Hoe.
The Hoe, yeah. And looking out, and it seemed really sort of impressive as a place, but the whole family was pretty fed up with nothing to do with Plymouth.
Being soaked to the skin.
Rain. But so coming back today, I think it's really, and that would be, I don't know, a few years ago maybe, there seems to be loads going on. I mean, even just that journey from the station to here, and you driving around a few areas, and even where we are now, you know, it seems like there's a really interesting sort of feeling about the place. There's lots of stuff sort of going on. And you can see that, which is true all around, certainly in Britain now, sort of areas that are run down, all those sorts of things, but it feels like there's a bit of energy here, which is really nice to see.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here 10 years myself, and I've seen a lot of change in that time.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think there's a lot of provincial cities around the UK trying to find their identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, whether it's sort of, I don't know, Middlesbrough or Sunderland in the north, to Plymouth down in here, down in the south, west. I think, you know, a lot of them either had an industry or had a connection, some other connection that might have evolved or changed, like Plymouth has with the Navy. Yeah. And so actually that city's got to find a new identity somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully, you know, you'll come back in a few years' time and do a similar thing, and you'll perhaps see the city evolving again. Exactly. The first thing in my mind is, you know, you've been on a design journey yourself for a few years now. I won't guess.
No, I will. I'll tell you in a minute.
But who inspired you to go on that journey?
Well, it is interesting.
What inspired you to go on that journey?
Looking back in some ways, because I had the classic thing of being, you know, good at art at school.
Right.
And I went to quite an academic sort of school, and I was, you know, middle of the road, sort of getting on okay, but good at art. So my tendencies sort of lay, and that's not my background. My family are not, you know, my dad was, I don't actually know what my dad did, but my mum was a physio.
They said, get a proper job.
And so it was definitely that sort of thing. And actually, well, I'll come back to that in a minute. But so I had that, and then I got to what were O levels, which sort of says a certain amount about my age, and did much better than the school expected, and I expected.
Well done.
And I remember I'd signed up to do art as my main sort of thing, and I was quite good at maths, so I was going to do maths and art, and that was it. And I got called in by the deputy head, who said, you don't have to do art anymore, you can do some proper subjects. And
brilliant.
And I would have been, 16 or something. I thought, I don't know what you mean, I wanted to do art, you know. So they basically rewrote my timetable with maths and physics and further maths and statistics.
Oh,
and I did art on Friday afternoon. And I just remember thinking, I was really shy, but I think I don't really want to do that.
Right.
So I just didn't. I just carried on doing what I was doing. And I still did maths and physics as A levels and with art, which was an odd combination.
Yeah.
And then I went to college basically to do illustration. Got there and everyone was better at illustration than all my teachers had been. So I hadn't done a foundation course. And I thought I'd better do something else. So that's how I ended up doing design.
Wow, that's a great story.
So it's just fluke, really.
I think. I mean, I think you and I are a similar age. Your O-level reference still resonates with me as well. So, but I think the creative industries at that time, I think, were under the radar. I think actually the UK had actually quite a vibrant creative scene.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And you know, I think a lot of some of the sort of premier sort of creative thinking, in design, in advertising. You know, the UK was leading the way, I think. Yeah. But it was funny at school and colleges, they didn't sort of go, have you thought about the creative industry?
Totally right.
It's like, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be an accountant? And I think that I remember that, you know, I myself, I was at college, I was doing similar A levels, and then I just fell out of love with it. And I just kind of just went off and kind of just did my own thing, and then ended up as a junior in a design agency in Victoria. And then I walked through the door and I was like, oh my God, there's a business.
No, totally,
There's people earning money out of you know, creativity. And it was the point at which it was the electrical charge I think I needed was like, oh my God, I want to be in this.
Yeah.
And once you see that, it's exciting, right?
I think that's true. And I think it's also, and it's something, because I teach at Norwich, which is where I studied a bit. And I teach there a bit. I did study there quite a lot, obviously. But when I went there, it was Norwich School of Art. And again, because academically I had A levels at this point, things like that. My dad was really keen I went to a university. He hadn't been to a university. No one in my family had been. And so when I was sort of saying I want to go to Norwich School of Art, there was a sort of sense of, it's not really, you could go to a university. And I got some offers from universities. And I did, to be fair to myself, I did stick to my guns, and I went to Norwich School of Art, which is now Norwich University of the Arts,
that's right.
which is part of the whole, whether you agree with it or not, the way that education has gone. I think it's a shame in lots of ways, because they've lost those sort of specialist art schools, you know. And I went there because it was an art school, not part of some big university, you know, at the time. So,
yeah, I think the Plymouth College of Art, which we drove past just now, has been a university for a number of years, but has just rebranded itself as Arts University Plymouth. Because it's now got degree award.
That's what happened
making
with Norwich.
powers.
So similar.
And there is something about that which I think is a change. And does it lose something? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
So that was your design journey, how it started. Who inspires you these days? You know, where do you get your inspiration from?
I think that's. I did read this question before, and I was thinking. I think it's quite a hard answer. I think when I first started doing design, when I found out what design was, I was very much. I just wanted to do it. I didn't really do a lot of. Perhaps because of coming from quite an academic sort of background, I didn't really want to do the sort of research side of things as much. I just wanted to practice.
Right.
So I did that, and then when I realised then that you could learn so much more from the design world and the world around you, I started to read up a lot more about designers and look into, you know, their lives and their work. But I've realised as I've got older now that I still do that. I've got a load of books in the studio and, you know, about a lot of designers. But I've realised I think I get more inspiration from going to art exhibitions and films and concerts and stuff.
The world around you.
Yeah, and it's a real. I find myself most of the time talking in cliches, but they're cliches for a reason, I think, because they're probably true. Probably true. So I got a wonderful book by Paul Smith about inspiration is everywhere, and I think that's pretty much the answer.
Cool. I'd agree with that. I think, you know, just hopefully just even those few minutes that we've had this afternoon. It's sensory overload.
Completely,
right?
And you just wander around taking loads of pictures and making notes, and it's just stuff just comes in. And it's, for me, the way I get inspired for projects is not sitting at my desk thinking, what shall I do? It's just wandering around and going places and talking to people.
Yeah, right. Because I think ideas just come, don't they?
Yeah.
The more you sort of absorb,
totally.
Ideas come out of that as well, right?
I'll talk about that a bit tonight, because I have it's not really a theory, sounds a bit grand, but the ideas and projects are already there. You just got to find them. So you just snuffle about. So I've got a picture of a truffle pig, because I like the analogy that they wander around. I don't know enough about them really, but they look like they're having a really good time rooting about, looking for sort of treasure. That's the way I semi-think about design.
Is there anything that scares you? Like when if you're starting a new project, and if you got, does the blank piece of paper scare you, or do you almost embrace that? I
thought again, it's a good question. When we did a book about called Phobophobia years ago, and that was all about people's phobias and fears and things. And I wrote the intro to it, because I'd been designing it. And I wrote this list of all the things I was scared of that goes over like 2 pages.
Okay.
Which starts with your obvious, spiders and
Yeah.
snakes and stuff like that. But it sort of carries on over pretty much the whole of life.
Right.
And I was very shy when I was younger, so I'm scared of people. I'm scared of almost everything.
Right.
But I hide it as well as I can.
Yeah.
And some of that sort of old baggage, which perhaps isn't around as much as it was. But in terms of that's sort of life-wise, I'm scared, But in terms of work, I don't really care about the blank sheet of paper thing, because you just start filling it up and things appear, don't they?
Yeah, right.
That I don't have that fear. I just get really excited. I want to get going. And I find a lot of those projects, you don't really have the blank sheet of paper, because by the time you've met someone, you started writing notes. It's not blank anymore. And those notes are in that little notebook, and they're just leading to other things,
Yeah, I was doing a project a couple of weeks ago with some guys, and it's a business sector I've got really not a lot of affinity towards or knowledge of. And I really went into that not scared, but thinking, I'm just going to learn something here.
Yeah, totally,
I loved that thought of learning about their world. And I listened to these guys for 6 hours in this room in Soho, and at the end of it, I was just buzzing because I was thinking, right, this has got some real potential here. So
I think it's the reframing thing, isn't it? If you view it as fear or just excitement or a bit of adrenaline. I get nervous doing talks and stuff, but I think you need a bit of that. Otherwise, you just come across like you're a bit dull and you're not interested, and you're just going through the motions. And I think the same with projects. And if the project doesn't scare you slightly or make you excited, then I don't know if I want to be doing it really. If you're just going through the motions of something.
We had a guy who's a friend of mine who's a creative director at Jones Knowles Ritchie.
Oh right, yeah.
Sean Thomas.
Yeah, I know him. Actually.
Oh, do you know Sean?
I met him quite recently about typo. So
he's a legend. He's a great guy. He did a talk here maybe 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Perhaps even 4. Came down just to talk about JKR's work, which they do some of the incredible work. But it was really funny. He talked about imposter syndrome in his talk. For him personally, he feels, even now, as a creative director of one of the world's foremost branding firms, that he still feels that.
Yeah.
Does that come into your world at all? Do you ever get a sense of that, or do you actually just go, you know what?
No, I absolutely subscribe to the imposter syndrome, but I'm feeling now it's a slightly lazy sort of generalisation in some ways, that it's a sort of a bit of a catch-all that everybody has got it if you're creative. But I think it's, I definitely feel that, but where does that get you? So I sort of feel I've definitely got it.
It's a bit like fear, I guess.
But if it stops you doing stuff, I think it's really interesting. I saw a brilliant thing a while back. I went to see, she's really stuck with me, Steve Reich in concert, the minimalist modern composer. And somebody said, it was a Q&A thing afterwards, about how do you know whatever you do is any good or not? When do you know when to stop? Because sometimes some of the stuff he plays is like one note repeated, and things like that. Are you self-critical? And he said, what I've come to realise is, he said, I'm very self-critical. But he said, if I'm too self-critical, I just produce nothing. And if I'm not self-critical enough, I just produce shit.
Right.
So I thought that's such a brilliant, you've got to find your middle ground of
the balance.
Imposter syndrome, I think it's actually quite a positive thing, because it makes you a bit grounded and a bit scared or excited, think what is going to happen. And so you can use it as a sort of fuel rather than if it stops you doing stuff, I think that's when it can become
it can be frozen, right?
Exactly.
Rabbit in the headlights type thing. Actually, you've got to kind of put it in a box, recognise that perhaps we've all got a bit of it, and actually then go from there, and go, right, how can I...
often I think you see people speak that you really admire, and they all seem to be, or you see people write books, whatever it might be, and you think, oh, they really know, they're supposed to be where they are, and you understand why. And then you realise they're probably just the same as the rest of us, and just worried at the same times about the same things.
Everyone's got the same fears.
It's how much they hide it, really, isn't it? Hiding things is the key, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Hiding in plain sight, perhaps. What advice would you give your graduating self at 21, 22 years old, coming into this industry? What advice would you give them, do you think, to help them on their way?
I think if it was talking to myself at that point, I wish I hadn't been as shy and as scared of almost everything.
Right.
That would have been helpful.
That's actually a big thing, I think.
It is, no, definitely, yeah. And I look back,
having a bit of confidence in yourself.
Yeah. And I used, I went from interviews. I was literally shaking.
Yeah.
I was all over the place. When I started work at the Partners, this obviously shows age again. I think, your phone would ring. I'd go and hide in the toilet.
Right.
It was horrendous, fucking horrendous. And
this is when people used to have phones on their desks.
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
it?
phones on their desk, and the reception
yeah.
would call you and say, I've got this. So I'd literally wait for my phone to go, and as soon as it went, I'd get up, and then somebody would leave me a little message going, somebody called for you, so I could prepare to call them back.
Right.
Perhaps I shouldn't tell anybody this. So I should keep it to myself.
No, these are good things.
But I've obviously got better. So I wish, but I look back and I think I wish I hadn't done some of those. Or I hadn't been like that. I think I could have enjoyed things. I did enjoy it. I worried a lot.
Yeah,
I'm trying to worry less now, and I do worry less now. So I wish I hadn't worried as much, and I think I should have enjoyed it a bit more, and I should have almost, again, it's a cliche, but sort of relished some of the projects we worked on. Instead of viewing them as like, oh God, this is really hard work, and it's not hard work. It's a really nice thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I wasted too much energy on worrying about what I was doing and what people thought about the work I was doing.
What was the Partners like back in the day?
I absolutely loved it. It was full of. It was pre them getting too big. It was only like 30 or so people.
Right. That's a great size.
Amazing work coming through the door. They'd done all this amazing work. You were just surrounded by brilliant sort of people, and I remember thinking, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
And you do outgrow it. I was there for 6 years, and then I went for about 25 interviews over like a period of, because I just didn't know what to do, and they seemed to be one of the best places around in my mind at that time. Yeah. So I had lots and lots of interviews, and I just sort of, in the end, they went to this tiny little company called HGV, because I wanted the experience of working somewhere really small. In the idea of setting up eventually. Yeah. And I suppose the other thing I think about it is, looking back on what I regret and stuff like that, is I don't regret a lot, because it's got me to where I am now.
Absolutely.
So it's part of that journey of sort of discovery and things. So. And I suppose the other thing I feel perhaps I'm doing more now than I did then is the whole collaborative nature of working. Right. I think that's the big thing for me especially since setting up the new studio post Hat-Trick, is working with really inspiring sort of people. And I think in the past it was much more like you sat in a studio with other designers and you just did your work. Did your work, and you commissioned stuff out, photographers, stuff like that. I think now it's become much more fluid and flexible, much more interesting. Working with a poet or coders or whatever it might be, all those sorts of things. I think is really interesting.
The design industry's changed a lot from when I joined it in '86 to now. It almost feels like the accelerator is being pressed to the floor all the time. Yeah. As each year goes by, in terms of how the industry is changing. What challenges do you think new creatives coming into the world that we work in now? What do you think? What are the big challenges that they face?
I think the big challenge, in some ways, is not knowing what the challenges are going to be. So it's going to be this I think it's going to speed up. I think what you think is going to be happening next year, it could be something completely different. And we've seen over the last few years, especially, I don't want to talk about all the bad things that happened the last few years, but all of that going on, that seems to be an endless roll. Yeah. And still doesn't seem to be finished. I've got a feeling we are in a period where all of that is just going to carry on. Yeah. Which means I think you've got to try and hold on to your personal sort of joy in some ways within your life and within your work. And so I think that idea of being able to just embrace the changes that are ahead, that we don't know what they're going to be, and you think you're going to be doing one thing, and actually 3 months later you're going to be doing something completely different. And you do get used to that, even just running a small studio. I've got no idea what we're doing in, I don't know, 3 weeks' time. Yeah, sure. Maybe 2 weeks' time. But things will happen, and there are some things that might happen, but we know by the time we get there, it won't be the thing I think we're doing now. It'll be something else. And I think for students now, or people leaving college, they've just got to sort of just embrace that's what's going to happen. Yeah. And I suppose it comes back to the other point of not wasting energy on the things that you can't control.
Absolutely, exactly.
And again, sort of paraphrasing someone else I saw speak at a conference, when they were saying what should students learn, and he said you just got to learn how to learn things, because what you're going to learn now is going to be useless in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like in terms of technical stuff, things like that. But if you've learned how to learn, the next thing that comes along, you'll be able to pick that up. I mean, I'm really pleased I'm not leaving college now. I was useless at almost everything, apart from thinking of ideas for things, which has obviously stood me in good stead. But like the guy I've got working for me at the moment, who's brilliant, but just technically is brilliant. He's brilliant at ideas. He's brilliant at others. You know, it's amazing how all round.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and I think I've been really lucky with the 3 designers now I've had work with me since I left Hattrick. Have all been amazing, and so much more adept at like a whole massive range of things. And funny enough, I remember in my interview with Nick Were. No, it's after my interview. My interview with Nick didn't go very well at the Barnes. And but when they offered me the job, they said we're at a size now where we can take people on who aren't good at everything, right? And I said, all right. He said, and it was basically
thanks for that kick in the balls.
that you're really good at thinking of ideas, but you're almost rubbish at everything else.
Right.
That was I'm not even sure that's a subtext. That could have even been the headline. But
we'll teach you the craft.
Yeah, but and that's what sort of happened. You picked it up over the years, then you worked somewhere else. And HGV, I learned a load of other, you know, probably more craft and things, those sorts of things. So I think it's, I think now you have got to be able to do sort of a bit of everything and know how to pick stuff up. But then I know with my daughters and with designers I've been working recently, they're much more adept at just thinking, well, I don't know how to do that, but I'll just go and look it up.
Yeah.
Or I'll go and speak to somebody who does know how to do it.
Yeah.
And they don't have that fear of, I don't know what to do, and I won't.
Yeah, that's a funny thing, isn't it? That the perhaps the internet has changed for the world, but particularly now, is that I don't know how to do it. I'll go and find out. I'll find out.
Yeah, and almost say yes.
There's always a YouTube video.
Yeah, no, totally, yeah. And it comes back to the fear thing some ways about just, you know, just say yes first.
Yeah.
And then think, oh shit, okay, how do I actually
Work
do
out
this?
how to do it.
Totally.
Yeah. I've just got this. I've got the Scouts motto in my head: "Be prepared." Like kind of like maybe that's just maybe that was foresight from.
Years ago.
Whenever they dreamt that
when
up,
they came out with it,
which is, and it stands its stead. It's in good stead now. It's to just be prepared.
Yeah, for something.
Anything, whatever.
Yeah.
You've done an incredible amount of work in your career. Is there a bit that stands out? You go, I just look at that piece of work every day, and it's the thing. I just love it. It's as good now as it was then, or are you more excited by creating new stuff all the time, and actually the most recent bit of work that you've done is your favourite bit of work because it's just the most recent bit of work?
I think that is a really good question, and I suspect probably the answer, but I'm really proud of a lot of work I've done. There's some stuff you look back and think I might have done that differently. I think there are two things which are completely different scales but sort of relate to that question. First, I did a little book about my dad's garage. I do a lot of side projects. I did this little book about my dad's garage after he died, and did it with my daughter. And we were supposed to be tidying the garage up, and I didn't want to tidy the garage up. But so we just went over there and just sort of started to look around, found some objects, thought these look nice. And I think she was 14 at the time. Nice sunny day, didn't want to be in this dusty garage full of spiders and things, and which comes back to what you're scared of, right? Yeah. So I used to be terrified of spiders. Anyway, we found this set of Allen keys that only had 8 legs left. It looked like a spider, and I just remember thinking we should just photograph everything in here.
Of course.
Almost as we never tidied it. We just photographed things.
Yeah.
And anyway, produced this didn't know what it was going to be, but produced this little book about my dad and about Jess, my daughter, and about finding magic in things. And I look back at that now, I don't think I'm going to do a better personal project.
Lovely. It's funny, Michael Place he came back, as you know, he came down and saw us at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, recent.
He did a book about his lockdown journey.
Yeah, that's right, which I've got a copy of, which is amazing. And it had really resonated, very different stylistic-wise and ideas-wise, but the thought of it I thought was amazing. Yeah, I can. And I found it really poignant reading certain little quotes about his dad and what he'd done. So for me, that really resonated. And that garage book is 2014 or so. It's quite, no, I'm more ago now. Anyway, long time ago. So there's that on a tiny scale. And then there's we did a project in a new studio in Brazil called Somos Brazil, which is like this human atlas project with an artist called Marcus Lyon. And we did that, and we did it as a sort of one-off project. Really interesting. I got to go to Brazil, got to work on this book and this exhibition and this app and stuff like that. And then it's such a brilliant idea of Marcus's that he basically photographs people, interviews them about their lives, takes DNA tests to find out where they're from in the world, and sort of celebrates diversity and immigration and all sorts of things.
Wow.
So we did it as one-off project, loved it. It was a lovely project to do, probably one of my favourite projects. But then what happened is somebody got in touch from Germany and could we do one there, and then we did one in Detroit last year.
Oh, wow.
Now we're doing one in Silicon Valley, and next year we're doing one in LA.
And are the locations joined somehow?
No, they're basically, and he always says this, it's if somebody shows an interest and we think it will be an interesting place, we'll go and do it there. So I got to go to Detroit, which I'd not really ever thought about very much.
Motor City.
And amazing place, and particularly to go there and do a project that had some social sort of values or support. It's very positive about the people that are there.
Right.
It's the opposite of all of this sort of Detroit's on its knees, and all the industry is gone. It's interesting, and not to compare, but we were saying about Plymouth earlier, with the naval sort of sort of infrastructure changing. What does the city do to reinvent itself? And you don't have to, certainly in Detroit, and I'm sure the same is here, you don't have to dig very deep to find these people that are doing amazing projects. And so Detroit just celebrates that. And Detroit, the project we did. Well, it's just led on to more and more. So for me, almost without a doubt, no, there's loads of other projects, but those two, I think, on a big scale, small scale, for me mean a lot.
Well, I've been fortunate myself to travel a lot in my career, and I think that has been, coming back to what we were talking about earlier about influences and absorbing, just going to different places and absorbing, particularly when they're overseas.
Yes.
I mean, I get as much in the UK as well, but you go somewhere different, whether it's Brazil or Detroit or Germany, wherever, and you just get a different feed, don't you? And that's the thing that can.
And that feeds into all your other projects. This is what I feel, and this is why we do so many projects at the same time, because to me they all overlap and feed into each other. Yeah. And that, going back to that, every project you're doing and researching inspires you on another project. So it's just an endless sort of lovely cycle.
Yeah, I love that. Is there anything recently or perhaps in the past, a bit of work that somebody else has done that you've thought to yourself, I wish I'd done that. I really wish I'd done that.
I had a really interesting conversation the other day. We did a little typographic circle. I'm involved with the typographic circle, and we did a student event and got loads of speakers there.
Brilliant.
And one of the nicest bits, I mean, it went really well. We had some really good talks in the evening, all quite short and quite condensed. And then we all went for a drink afterwards, and we were sitting around the table with some really good, people I know quite well, people I don't know quite so well, just chatting. And they were talking about, it's really funny this in some ways, that like imposter syndrome, some of these sorts of questions came up. One came up about envy, and some of them were saying, oh yeah, I'm really envious of this and envious of that. Somebody sort of asked me, and you could see, just assuming I'd say, no, I'm not envious of. I'm almost envious of every single project I see come out. I'm either envious because it's really good, envious that I would have liked to have done it, and it's not very good. Perhaps there's only those two states really.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think envy's can be sort of misconstrued. I think it's quite an energy for me. It's envy that makes you think, I wish I'd done that and I want to do something better. So I'm not sure there's specific jobs, because there's literally
so much work in the world, right?
And there's so much amazing stuff just comes out. And again, if you travel a bit, and I've been lucky enough to go to Japan a couple of times and China and things like that, you meet some designers you've never even heard of, and almost everything they've done you think is amazing, even though you don't necessarily understand half of it. I think is all that's doing is feeding yourself.
What in all your travels? What location outside of the UK, let's say, were you most inspired by or excited about being in?
I think probably going to Tokyo. I went once with the family. We went for a few weeks. and went to Tokyo and Kyoto, and I thought that was just completely overwhelming. It was quite a few years ago now, and then I was lucky enough to go back relatively recently with D&AD to do some talks and things. And so I felt like even just going back there, you suddenly got a slightly better...
Yeah, because you're a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I found that inspiring, and I do really love a lot of Japanese...
the design.
Design and product design and things like that. So probably there.
Yeah, it's the number one on my bucket list. I've been
totally.
A lot of places. I've got real close ones, but never made it.
Going to Shanghai, that was with D&AD as well. I went over to do a big conference. And I found that, again, completely out of my depth, wandering around on my own, which I tend to do quite a lot, scribbling things, taking photographs, and thinking you're going to get arrested by people who told you not to take photographs of things. But it's, I thought, again, this is a whole world of stuff going on here that I know nothing about.
Yeah.
And life's too short, isn't it? That's
yeah. We've had an idea, which is, what would each speaker like to ask the next speaker as a question? And then we'll pose that to them in the video, and you'll get at some point in the future.
Yeah, nice. That's a lovely idea. There's a word for that, isn't there? That sort of chain, like a chain thing.
Like a sort of paying it forward in some respects kind of thing. But can we ask you to think about what question you might ask an unknown speaker at some point in the future?
Well, it's hard because you don't know, because I think a lot of the time you want to ask them the questions that I
relate to their practice or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard, and I think I would say, which touched on something you said earlier, I've never asked a question at a lecture, right? And you know, when I've been in the audience, and yet I've always wanted to,
right?
But I'm too like the idea of putting your hand, just never done. And then I realised when you're doing talks and that no one asks questions, it's a real shame, because once it gets going, it's the best bit, because it is responding to what you've hopefully been talking about and stuff like that. So I've realised now, just a little aside, that I just bribe people now. So I just give them something like a set of cards or something to ask questions, and it works. They start, you know.
We could just bribe people with beer tonight.
Whatever. But it's just a bit of bribery, definitely. Works. And it's not, people don't want to ask. They just, once you get a couple out, then that's when it sort of snowballs a bit. And for me, it is one of the most interesting bits. We'll see tonight. But so I think it's hard about who you'd ask a question, because I think you'd want to ask a question that was about them. But I suppose the thing that occurs to me is, it's something I think and talk about a lot, is about joy in work.
Right.
I don't subscribe to this idea that you have to, I think you work hard, but it's not hard work. It's not, you know, this whole thing, put your nose to the grindstone and it's blood, sweat and tears. I think we're so fortunate to be doing what we're doing.
100%.
So I suppose for me, it would be about where that person finds the sort of joy in their work.
Oh, okay.
Where do they look?
That's a nicer question.
Where do they look for? That sounds a bit dodgy. Where do they look for joy? Where do they look for joy in their work? Perhaps that's a better way to put it.
Well, that's a great way
to
end this. Again, thank you for coming down.
No, it's a pleasure.
Really looking forward to tonight.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Dan. Cheers.